So what is going on, guys? My name is Dustin. You guys may know me as Pwn for my video game commentaries and live streams, but today I felt an urge, a responsibility to make a video on guns in our country. Now, this isn't going to be what you're probably expecting. I'm not going to hit you with all the facts and the politics, because honestly, I don't care about that. I'm just a normal American that doesn't want to get wrapped up in all of that drama, all that controversy, this side, that side. I don't care. I'm not anti-gun. I'm not pro-gun. I'm in this weird state in the middle where I feel like reality truly lies, and I want to explain my first experiences with guns, the time my mom was kidnapped, when I started to collect them myself. And I feel like a lot of people, especially outside the country, looks in and they see and hear about all of these situations and mass shootings, and everybody likes to just default to get rid of guns. That's an impossibility in this country. I want to explain why. And again, I'm not trying to push any agenda here, and I would love you guys, I want to set some ground rules to respect that in the comment section below. Do not attack your fellow brothers and sisters down there, please. If you have opinions, if there's things that you think that can better our country, share them around. The whole purpose of this video is to, in fact, to educate you a little bit further so that you can tell other people why this or that does or does not work. And I'm going to give you guys some of my solutions for the situation that we have at hand. So anyways, let's get into it. So throughout my life, I lived in a not-so-great neighborhood. I was always in fear of my life, and it was just drugs, violence, shootings, stabbings. It's not to the magnitude of a lot of other cities in this country, but a lot of our violence does happen in just a few congested areas. It's not like the entire country is surrounded by violence. Some people get to live comfortably, others, however, do not. And I happen to fall in that category of do not. And I never really cared about guns for the longest until this one day. And I'll give you a story about this time my mom was kidnapped. Mom-napped? Mom-napped, that's more appropriate. I remember how I felt. Me and my girlfriend at the time, we were sitting down. My mother just said, hey, before you guys go, your brother's sick. I want to run up to Walgreens, which is a convenience store, to get medicine for him, a pharmacy. And I remember, like, okay, so this is literally a 2-minute walk. She should be back in 10 minutes max, right? 2 hours have passed, and I asked her husband, where is she? And he's like, I don't know. I'm not her keeper. And I remember those words too. And this is why I've always been so protective to know where my family is. And, you know, I'm sitting there, I'm getting pissed. I'm like, Mom, we had plans. We were going to Chipotle. You know, I remember my frustration building up towards my mother. Like, why are you doing this? I was so upset. It was so damn petty. And she pulls in. I see it. I come outside, and I'm ready to just lay into her. I'm ready to be like, what the hell? We had plans. We were going to see a movie. And then she turns and looks at me, and the huffing and the struggling for breath, the tears, the snot coming down her face, the panic. And then this wave of emotion swept over me, seeing my mom in this state. And first thing I did is I said Braden, which is the name of my little brother, and she's like, no, he's inside. She corrected me instantly. She say he's safe. I'm cool. I'm all right. Turns out that as she went in to go get medicine for my sick little brother, some guy with a gun snuck into the bed, the hatch, if you will, of her SUV and hid under some blankets that were back there. And as she came back in from getting his medicine, he jumped out, surprised her, pulled a gun on her, and well, basically took her hostage. From this point, I understand it to be that he took her engagement ring. He took her money. He had her drive him around to all these banks to retrieve some of the money from her savings and stuff. And he would have her at gunpoint drive him to different various crack houses, and had her license in his hand, in his possession. And as he goes in and sells some of her shit, pawns off her shit, gets drugs, gets high, he would come back out, and he took her ID, saying that I know where you live. If you run off, if you drive off, I will find you. And through all of this, she was put through hell. 2 hours of driving this guy around at gunpoint, just stealing and taking her life completely out of her hands. And after seeing her, after feeling that emotion, I felt like it was time to learn about firearms. And it started off as a hobby for me. I started collecting firearms about 4 or 5 years back, and I don't think I fired a single one of them for a year or two. I had a natural fear of them. I had, for lack of better explanation, a solid respect for a firearm, for a gun, a thing, a tool that can literally be used to end a life, be it animal or human. And I think I had probably 10, 15 guns before I even fired one. I like the idea of collecting them. They held their value quite well, still do. And after I started shooting them, they were extreme stress relief. They were a fun hobby to have, but they are often used as tools for dangerous situations. And I felt like it was necessary to learn how to understand these things, to know how to try to prevent these things from happening to other people, to be able to protect my family. And it was at that moment in my life where I realized that our lives are not in our control. And this is to be expected. Car accidents, all kinds of things happen. But at the hands of another, something that you could have influence on, I wanted to do something about it. So that's when I started learning and educating myself, and that's what I want to teach you guys today. A lot of you guys see these headlines and don't understand that a large amount of people, kids, and suicides happen each year, vastly outnumbering the fatalities via these mass murders, but they don't get the headlines. You don't see anything about this. So the problem lies with a tool with easy access and with extreme danger behind it. The amount of bodies that you can stack up with one of these is just unreal. And our country has yet to come up with a solution to resolve this. You know, they keep saying, hey, let's just reduce the mag capacity. Well, that's not going to stop anything because we could just have more mags. Oh, we got to stop automatic weapons. That's not going to do anything because anyone with any real experience with a rifle of any sort is going to be able to do and inflict just as much damage with a semi-automatic. It really doesn't change anything. And the fact that we've been attacking how to fix these things all wrong proves that that is a crisis in our country. And for me personally, I want to tell you my stories of how I've earned mine to explain why we cannot ban these entirely from our country. I've got a lot of friends, especially those from overseas, that just look and like, get rid of them. It worked for this country. It worked for this state. It worked for wherever. It's not that simple here. They're everywhere. They are everywhere. There are millions, if not tens or even 100 million plus guns out there. Untraceable, no paper trail, no clue to know how many of them or in whose hands they're honestly in. And that is the reality that we live within. So even if there was some sort of law put in place, some legislation, some issues, things put down in paper saying turn in your guns, there would still be hundreds of thousands of them that will not be turned in, if not millions and millions and millions of them. So it's just an unrealistic goal. So then only the people that are willing to not listen to the law are going to have them, and the people that turn them in, respecting those, an honor code, if you will be. And that's just not safe. So the first time I purchased a gun was a shotgun. It was at a yard sale. Let that sink in. For $100, I walked up to just a neighbor, saw a shotgun on a table, walked out of there. We shook hands, a deal was made. That was it. Didn't ask me for my age, nothing. And you don't have to. I believe the rules are that you're supposed to make sure that the person's not a felon, and I feel like all you can honestly do to make sure that's true is ask them, hey, are you a felon? And all they gotta do is say no. And anyone, felon or not, can do that. So that was my first purchase. My second purchase was about 6 or 7 guns at once. And this was documented. This was at an actual gun store. And I walked in there the first time that anybody has seen my name on paper. I go in there. I pick out the guns I want. One was a rifle. One was an AR. One was a shotgun. And then there was like 3 handguns or something. And I go inside there trying to buy a bulk purchase at once. 2 or 3 grand in guns. I fill out my form. Give them all my legal documentation. They go in the back. They call it in. They come back. They either give you the green light or the red light. Your account could be put on hold. They could say no because of this or that. And naturally, after about 20 minutes of waiting, they come back out and say, hey, they're yours. That's all it took. And I could not. I mean, honestly, as a first-time buyer, I was like, there is no way, without any documentation, any history of me, that they're okay with me walking out with 7 guns at once. And I felt uncomfortable with that fact. I'm not going to lie. As a person that loves guns, loves to collect, and has bought in bulk multiple times, I was like, that is nuts that I can buy 7 guns at once. And it was completely legal, right? And the fact that I can go to any website, any forums, just people that I know, I can call out to buddies, hey, I've got this gun for $500, I'm looking for another gun, just want to mix it up. And he can give me one up for trade or for sale, bit of both, whatever, is crazy. So at the end of the day, we live in a country where anyone that has a clean record can go buy guns in bulk we live in a country where guns can be given away, sold, or traded without any documentation. You don't need a bill of sale. You don't need any actual proof. No paper trail whatsoever. And that is the reality of our situation. That is why there are millions of guns out there, because they are traded, they are sold, and there's no way to know who has what, when, or how many. And this is why when people say we need to turn in guns, it is an impossibility, because there are millions and millions, if not tens of millions of them, unaccountable for, untraceable, with no way of knowing if people are actually turning them in or not. No way to enforce that. So what will happen is people are going to stock up on these. They're going to keep them. Criminals are not going to honor this code of turning the guns in. So there's no way they could put into law. And that's if they can somehow get by bypassing what our country was built on in the first place. I'm not talking about the politics and things. I'm talking about the realistic expectations of getting these turned in. And it's just an impossibility. It's too saturated. There are too many of them here in our country, and it's the sad truth. And this is coming from a guy that loves shooting. I love guns. I use them as a hobby. I collected them. I had over 20 at one point. And not everybody's as responsible as I am. Not everybody should have them. Not everybody is capable of having them. And not everybody is just some mental issue nut. Some people just have triggers in their lives that force them to just whip out the gun. And just having these tools at our disposal is a problem. And again, a lot of issue lies with accidental discharges. People don't know how to use the firearms, don't know how to protect and save their kids because they don't buy safes, and they don't know how to understand these weapons, because in the state that I live in, I can go buy a gun, or 7, you know. I can carry it, open carry. I don't need a concealed carry, I don't need a permit, I don't need a class, I don't need taught how to even use the thing. I can just buy one and put it on my hip and wear it around. Literally, that's it. I don't need anything. There's no mandatory requirements, and that is nuts. So, for those that are like, what can we do with this issue? And personally, it's not just one big thing like get rid of guns. If it was as easy as that, it would have been done already. It's going to be a bunch of minor changes that is ultimately going to make the world a better place, probably 20, 30, 40 years from now. And I know you're like, hey, that's not instant results, but that's not how it's going to be. Not when there's millions of them out there. So I feel like a lot of things need to come in play. My recommendation, personally, would be to completely ban secondhand sales. So respected retailers, so on and so forth, should be the only ones that they have selling guns, where they can honestly monitor people, take care of these things, and know exactly who they're going to. And the respectable people, again, will obviously listen to these rules. The criminals will not. But over time, things will change, and hopefully those numbers shrink. Now, if I'm wanting to exchange a gun with a guy, it's no longer just like hitting this guy up on the interwebs and going to Walmart parking lot and exchanging these guns. Again, it should be handled through a retailer, something along the lines of that. Hell, I can order guns online right now and have it shipped to a middleman and go pick that up from him. It's that easy. I can buy one online now. And these secondhand options, it's just, it's too loose. The system we have is too loose. There are not enough restrictions in play. I also feel like the idea of giving somebody a mandatory class should be a bare minimum. Why this hasn't been enforced already is beyond me. But anyone owning or buying a firearm, especially as a first-time purchase, needs to be forced to go through a mandatory class. An understanding of how these guns work, how dangerous they are, because I feel like you need to understand how a gun works before you can properly secure this thing in your house, before you know how to use that and not accidentally hurt another person. You should not be able to just buy a gun and wear it and take it wherever you want. Things like women and their purses and stuff like that, that's not safe. You can't keep doing this. You need to learn to carry it, the smaller your back, however you want to do it. But there's so many situations, so many articles I've seen of kids getting into guns or getting into their mom's purses, and I'm like, this comes down to the fact that they were not educated about these guns. And I also feel that, and this would also put more pressure on things, is that if you are purchasing a weapon, a firearm, that you should also be prepared to purchase a gun safe in turn. Like, it's a combination purchase. You should expect to spend an extra $100, $200 in a safe, because we should not be giving something out that could be accidentally discharged stolen, because there have been mass murders where somebody just went and grabbed their guns from their uncle's cabinet or from the closet or something. They don't even need to be registered to them. They don't need to pass any certification or background checks. They can just go take them from people that have not had proper security on them. These are things that we need to put into play. And again, they aren't going to affect the world right now. But for our grandchildren, for their sake, for their safety, it may matter. It may help them. They need to be harder to get a hold of. You can't just buy them anywhere. You can't just go take them out of somebody's closet. People need to have a respect and an honest understanding of how these work before we will see any real change. So, honestly, as I said, it's going to be a bunch of little things. We can't get rid of guns. It's an impossibility. Scrap that. If you're trying and you're hurt and you're emotionally displeased with all of this violence, just saying getting rid of guns is not helping. Again, start attacking things that can actually influence it and will matter in the end. So, little changes like that are going to be how things change. You know, reducing the mag capacity of a gun is going to do nothing because they can just carry more mags, and any experienced shooter can alternate those mags in, really not changing the amount of people they can inflict pain on. That's not going to do anything. Suppressors, silencers, what? This isn't going to do anything. They're still strictly boom booms. They're super loud. It's going to do anything. So everybody's attacking all these different ways because we need something to blame. We want to limit this. We're all hurt and confused. It starts with a bunch of small things, guys. It does, because you're not going to get away with taking away the guns. The purpose of this video is strictly to help educate you guys, especially those overseas that are like, hey, this. So the next time that you see somebody saying, just get rid of guns, or reduce the capacity in them, explain to them why this is going to do nothing, why this is an impossibility, why it's an unrealistic way to attack this situation. And counter with explaining to them. Don't get mad at them. Don't say, this is stupid, you're stupid, that can't happen, insert Second Amendment rights. Don't. It's not about agendas. It's not about the politics. Explain to them why this physically cannot happen. And try to encourage them to put their passion, their confusion, their emotions into another way of attack. Say, this is how easy it is to get guns in this country. You can buy them at yard sales. You can exchange them anywhere. You can order them online. That's where it starts. That's how you get change. You explain to people, you educate them, so that the next time they're not just spewing off, hey, just get rid of guns as their solution. They're able to tell another person when they see somebody saying that same excuse and they say, hey, we can't do this, this is why. Not only are you correcting them and educating them on the topic, but you can also offer up solutions and give them away because they're clearly passionate about this. So instead of allowing them to complain about a way and trying to give a solution that's not going to work realistically, you give them the means to fight it head on in a way that will really and truly matter. So say, hey, you know what we need to do? We need to stop sales outside of retailers. We need to make sure there's documentation in play. We need to know whose gun is in whose hand. Because right now, out of the 10 guns that I've sold, if one of them was used in committing a crime, they're going to come after me because I was legally the one that purchased that gun. And I'm going to tell them I sold that gun 4 years ago. I could still have the gun. They wouldn't know. And they would have no way to prove that because that's how common that is in this country. And they'd be like, oh, okay, can you describe this person? Do you have a bill of sale? Be like, nope. And they'd be like, oh, okay. And that's where you hit a road. Dead end. So hopefully you learned something. And though some of the things you learned today might frighten you, especially if you're not from here, it's easy to get a gun. I can just go into any neighbor's house. So you can, family members, they're accessible. And this goes beyond mass shootings, right? This is what I'm wanting to teach you guys. This is why I think we need more rules in play beyond just preventing mass shootings. So yes, stopping people from buying guns secondhand or exchanging them without any documentation or any background checks. Yeah, that's a terrible thing. That's something that we really need to double down on. We need to make sure that's the thing that we probably approach the most. We need to understand that safes have to be a mandatory thing for people that purchase firearms. This has got to be something that happens. That classes need to be had. You need to know how to use, discharge, protect, clean, everything about a firearm before you buy them. They need to be respected. You need to be able to trust when somebody has one, they know how to use the dang thing. This is a thing. I've seen too many cases of kids and digging into their mom's purses and shooting themselves or their loved ones. I've seen too many cases of somebody committing a murder or suicide because they just went and grabbed daddy's shotgun out of the closet. And it's because these things are not secured. People need to have an understanding and respect for these things. And this happens by making people buy safes with every handgun purchase, so on and so forth. They need to show documentation of having these safes. They need to make sure that they are exchanging these things under the eyes of people put in charge of keeping track of these things. We need to make sure that classes are mandatory. You should not be able to buy a gun without having an understanding of how that thing purchased works. You don't just give anyone a car because somebody can hurt somebody with that car. They need to understand, train, practice, and then qualify for it. This should be no different. And that's how I feel for it. That's what I think. This is going to save more lives than you think. It's not just about mass murders. It's about life in general. And more things need to be put in play to protect life. That's how I feel about the topic. Thank you guys for your time. If you've made it this far, you guys are truly awesome. Again, I encourage you guys to share what you've learned today. This all starts with proper education. People need to understand guns, period. When we all understand guns, the sooner we can come up with solutions for them. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you guys. Bless you all. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Take care.